So I wasn't sure whether to do this video, and it all happened in a strange way. One night I was out with my friends at a birthday party. We were having a great time, and I was getting some aggravation off this guy who was basically just a troll. And I said, like, you know, kind of, I can't remember now, but leave me alone. I'm out with my friends. And he came back, you know, yeah, of course, you're at a party, sure. Me and my friend did a video. I asked him for his WhatsApp because I wanted to send him a video and he wouldn't give it me. So we just did a video that I put on the social media timeline with his name in it. Basically proved I was at a party because we said his name and give him the finger. But on the way home in the taxi, I started reading out some of his tweets and some of the other tweets. And I kept seeing the driver looking in the mirror. And I thought, I wonder if she knows him. And anyway, all of a sudden she said, like, that's really interesting. These people seem to be behaving like pack animals and using the same terminology. It's almost like a religion. And then she told me that she was doing a degree and she was studying to qualify as a psychologist. She asked me if I could share these with her. And I did. Now, without naming names, she then shared data back to me of their behaviour. And honestly, it's scary. It really is scary. I'll just go through some of the things I shared. And if I can remember, I'll try not to name names. I've got them down as a name, but as a guinea pig and numbered. So let's just go through them. So the study was called The EV Guinea Pigs, Keyboard Bullies, Mind Games, and the Dark Side of EV Fanaticism. When I first started watching these people, I thought they were pathetic, childish, embarrassing, laughable, the same bad faith reframing, the same silly mind games, the same psychological nonsense, the same habit of pretending I'd said things that I'd never said, the same weak trick of trying to answer a point by inventing a different point, not what I said, and attacking their own point instead. Now, I first remember seeing, I think it was on Michael Parkinson, he was saying about how he questioned politicians. He had this really, really good question. So he went through the question to the politician, and the politician said, that's a good question, but I think what we should be asking ourselves is, and then he proceeded to ask himself his own question and answer his own question. That's what these EV people do. Instead of it being their own question, they pretend it's what you've said and they answer it. At first, I genuinely thought it was funny because they'd made a ridiculous fool of themselves. But the longer I watched them, the darker it got. Because once you really pay attention, you realise this isn't just a few rude people on the internet. It's a type, a recognisable type, a type of EV fanatic that keeps displaying the same traits, the same behaviour, the same insults, the same manipulations, the same emotional pattern, and the same inability to cope with scrutiny. And once I realised that, I stopped laughing. I mean, I'm mentally tough. I've been in car sales all my life. It's not easy. I can take it. I can see what they're doing. I can spot the reframing, the gaslighting, the baiting, the projection, the fake innocence, the repeated accusation loops, the bad faith demands, the false victim act. But not everybody can. Not everybody that reads them tweets can. That's the point. Because these tactics aren't designed to have an honest discussion. They're designed to wear people down, to isolate them, to make them doubt themselves, to make them feel surrounded, to make them think the cost of speaking is higher than the cost of staying quiet. And that's why this matters, because these people aren't just annoying. Boy, are they annoying too. They're part of the problem. They're one of the reasons honest debate around EVs has become so poisonous. So I started documenting them. I saved the tweets, I grouped the behaviour, I compared the tactics, I looked at what they said, how often they said it, how they changed when challenged, and how many of them were running exactly the same playbook. And once I lined them up, it became obvious. So today, I'm calling them the guinea pigs, so I know who's who. I won't read the names out, because this isn't about making them famous. It's about showing you what this behaviour actually looks like. So the shared playbook, before we go through them one by one, here's the pattern, because this is the bit that really matters. You challenge a claim, then comes liar framing, then ridicule, then credibility attacks, then motive smears, then mental state jabs, then ageism, then pile-on behaviour, then public pursuit, then workplace, business, reputation, colleagues, ex-partners, followers, and your audience. And in the worst cases, hints about showing up, calling in, filming or taking the pressure beyond the screen. That's not normal disagreement. It's not robust debate. It's not just X or social media. That's a pressure system. And it's designed to do one thing: make scrutiny socially painful. Because if they can't beat the argument, they try to damage the person making it. That's the playbook. Guinea pig 1 is the polished one. Not the worst in tone, not the most openly nasty, but still running the same basic software. This is the selective facts one, the one who picks one flattering variable for EVs, efficiency, cost in one specific scenario, one market trend, one ownership case, and then acts as if that single point settles the whole thing. If one owner likes their EV, the debate's over. If some people can charge cheaply, the debate's over. If one chart points in one direction, the debate's over. So that's not analysis. That's cherry picking with a really smug expression. This one wants to sound calm, rational, inevitable. But calm isn't the same as honest, and confidence not the same as right. So Guinea Pig 1 wasn't the nastiest, but he's still part of the propaganda machine. Guinea Pig 2 is the fake reasonable one. This is the soft sneer. This is the oh Barrie, Barrie, Barrie type. The I'm being nice type. The why can't we have a sensible conversation type. Only of course, what that really means is, I want to patronise you. I want to needle you. I want to belittle you and still come out looking like the sensible one. That's not civility. It's condescension. This type wants plausible deniability. They want to provoke you while sounding polite enough to fool bystanders or anybody else who's reading the tweets and conversation. So they use sarcasm, for concern, fake maturity, and smug little put-downs. Again, not a proper answer, just theatre. Guinea Pig 3. This guy, particularly nasty, and he had a look about him, his face, his eyes. If he'd come in the showroom, I'd have made myself scarce. I wouldn't have wanted to deal with him. They tell you not to stereotype in sales. I've done it all my life, and I don't think I've ever been wrong once. I've never regretted not dealing with somebody. There's a few I have regretted dealing with. Guinea Pig 3 is the moralising one. This one likes to act as though any criticism of EV propaganda is some kind of moral failing. You're not just wrong, apparently you're on the wrong side of history. You are holding back progress. You are helping the fossil fuel industry. You are a problem to be swept aside. And mixed in with that comes the usual sneering rubbish, sad little voice, head in your arse, King Canute, most ignorant man of the month, or me. That is smug moral posturing from someone who wants the argument settled by self-righteousness instead of the facts. He's one of the atmosphere builders, one of the people who helps make criticism of EV narratives feel socially dirty. Guinea Pig 4. This guy is nasty, honestly nasty. And he had a little friend and they exchanged messages about me. He had a little knitting group in which another one of the people in this study was involved with, where they kind of talked about me behind my back, didn't have the guts to include me in it so that I could put them right, which I found, and I did put them right. And the funny thing is, that one of the other people, who I will mention, who I like to call no sex evers, but I think he was Essex Severe, and he's since been banned by Twitter. Nothing to do with me, I might add, but he was just obnoxious. And what you will find is, if you go into these people's profiles, it's not just EV. And they have a few of them, I have to be very careful here, but a few of them have rather radical views on news stories or what's happening in the news, and always seem to take the side of the aggressor and try and pretend that they're the victim. I hope I've described that right. But they also have strange views on other things that I'd put them in prison for. Or is that me being radical? But anyway, Guinea Pig 4 is more openly contemptuous. He says he's a dealer, car dealer, but he won't say which dealer he is. And the stuff he says doesn't ring true. His claims don't ring true. So he's more openly contemptuous. And this is where the mask slips more obviously. This is where you get, old man, this is me calling me in the tweets, old man, grandma, you're triggered, you're disturbed, unwell ramblings, tiny brain, go get some help, dinosaur. Again, what's happening there? Now, this is a bit of a spoiler. Just remember this for later on in the video, because there's a technique in sales called mirroring. And if you mirror the character or the person that you're trying to sell a car to, they bond with you easier. But you can also use it in a bad way. You can use it in a good way, but you can also use it in a bad way. If you want to wind somebody up, you can take their worst character traits, mirror them, use them against them. They don't like that, trust me. As the guy in Dad's Army used to say, they don't like it up 'em.
That's the only language they understand, sir. You see, they don't like it up 'em.
So again, what's happening here? Those aren't rebuttals. They're not evidence. He's trying to make the audience look at the person instead of the point. Forget the point. Look at the person. Old, mad, dim, past it, ridiculous. So that's the move. Make the critic socially toxic to listen to. So that's why these insults matter, because they're not random, they're functional insults. Guinea Pig 5. Guinea Pig 5 is one of the clearest contempt merchants. Not necessarily the most obsessive. He tried, but I just kept shooting him down all the time, and he just got fed up. He wasn't necessarily the most strategic, but one of the most openly degrading. This is the sort who doesn't really want to debate. He wants a target. He wants someone to sneer at, someone to diminish, someone to make look pathetic, small, socially worthless, embarrassing. And that's why he matters, because he shows how little of this is really about cars. Some of them aren't there to defend a position. They're there to indulge in contempt. And once contempt becomes the language of the thread, truth usually disappears very quickly. Guinea Pig 6. Now we get to one of the filthier examples. Guinea Pig 6 is the sewer mouth. This is where the abuse gets more open and more crude. This is where you get simpleton, fool, dopey, too stupid, not right in the head, seriously fucked in the head, intellectual difficulties, learning difficulties, bottom rung of jobs, car sales. In other words, this guy isn't debating, he's degrading, attacking intelligence, attacking grammar, attacking profession, attacking mental state, calling you a troll while he's living in your replies like a tenant who won't pay rent. This isn't the language of someone confident in facts, it's the language of someone who's lost the argument and gone feral. Guinea Pig 7. Long history with Guinea Pig 7. I first contacted them because I had a business idea which I wanted to put to them. And it soon became clear that they were obnoxious. Well, to me, they were obnoxious. And I didn't like their answers, I didn't like their attitude, and I certainly wouldn't have wanted to be a business partner with them. But this is Guinea Pig 7, and it's one of the most revealing examples, because this is where the script turns from general nastiness into something more serious. Guinea Pig 7 is the expert. The one who wants everyone to know what the job is. The one who wants everyone to know they understand EVs. The one who wants to talk down to the motor trade from a pedestal. Well, that's fine. If you're the expert, answer the expert questions. Simple. There was a specific EV, a car that they'd sold, a car that later developed a fault, a car that, in my understanding, had to be bought back, a car that then appeared advertised on Auto Trader as a trade sale. Now that immediately raises questions. Not silly questions, serious questions for the motor trade. At one point they accused me of having cognitive issues and being a poorly educated member of the motor trade. Now they say that they provide a battery state of health certificate with every EV they sell. So I asked them to answer these questions. What was the battery state of health when you first sold this car that went wrong and you bought back? What was the battery state of health when the fault was reported? Because you must have tested it. If it was under warranty, the first thing you would do is test the battery state of health again. So you'd have, when you sold it, when it went wrong, what was the difference between those two readings? This is what I've asked. What was the battery state of health when it was later sold on as a trade sale? What were the dates of those tests? What were the mileages? What were the intervals? These aren't trick questions. These are exactly the sort of questions a serious operator should answer immediately. What happened? Silence. He was calling me names in my timeline. All sorts of stuff. I asked him these questions, he ignored them. I asked them again, he ignored them. Other people who were in the replies underneath the questions that I've asked him, he replied to. So he had seen, but he just ignored me. And to be fair, I get that. I mean, obviously, there's some people that I ignore. So I understand that. But, as I said to him, if you're not going to answer these serious questions, which could help us all understand EVs, especially the motor trade, and especially the problems you get when you sell them, if you're not going to answer those questions, then please, I doubt if I said please, then don't come on my timeline ever again calling me names. He disappeared off my timeline until a week or so ago. So there was just silence at first, no clear answers, no full timeline, no proper technical response. This is the same person who turns up on my timeline throwing around things like cognitive issues, and I'm a poorly educated member of the motor trade. So it's funny that, plenty of time for cheap little psychological jabs, but no time for straight important answers. And then there's a wider safety question, because I've seen material presented as EV training, and frankly, it looked like amateur hour to me. I was in charge of writing the rules at the main dealers for the workshop and safety, and also checking it, making sure everything was adhered to. I looked at this picture and I was disgusted. It looked amateurish. There was an EV battery supported on a wooden pallet. There was a pry bar next to it. No obvious properly controlled work area. No obvious fully correct protective discipline. No obvious dead man's hook in sight. No goggles. No gloves. Now, I'm not saying one image tells us absolutely everything, but if you're presenting yourselves as the trained experts, the visual standard ought to be immaculate. Not casual, not improvised, not that'll do. I mean, I've even seen him working on an EV with Johnny Smith underneath the ramp, close enough to get electrocuted if the mechanic touched the wrong thing. And as I remember, he was wearing a watch too. Let me just tell you this story. Years and years ago, I was working on a vehicle. I reached down to get something. I think I dropped a nut or something, and I reached down to get it, and my watch strap, metal watch strap, touched the positive and the negative on the starter motor, and it kind of welded itself straight away. There was a massive flash and it welded itself, and I had to rip my hand out, and my watch was still stuck to one of the terminals. Fortunately, the strap had given way. So whenever I'm working on cars, the first thing I do is take my watch off. The first thing you should do when you're working on an EV is take your watch off, in my opinion. And also, when you're reaching up and you can't see what you're doing, then I think you should have proper protective gloves on. But that's just me. Then also, there's the mobile servicing and repair angle. Working on EVs at people's homes, on their driveways, outside the tightly controlled workshop conditions, outside what should be tightly controlled workshop conditions. So that raises obvious questions too. You go to somebody's house to fix their EV, what's the risk assessment process? What's the work area control? What's the customer briefing? What's the emergency procedure? What exactly happens if something goes wrong? Those are some serious questions, not anti-EV questions, professional questions, professional concern for both the employed mechanic and, you know what it's like, working up somebody's drive, kids are playing on the garden, dogs out, you touch the wrong thing, who there is going to pull you off? Who there knows that they shouldn't touch you? Who there knows that you should have a big dead man's hook to pull you off the wire? Is it the old couple whose Nissan Leaf you're servicing? How do you tell them? Should you tell them? Should you be allowed to service and repair EVs in an uncontrolled environment? They seem like they've got a good business. You know, far be it from me to want to stand in anybody's way of making a good, successful business. I'm sure it would help if it was less obnoxious. So the problem is that some of these people think being loudly pro-EV exempts them from scrutiny. Doesn't. And when they refuse to answer straightforward technical questions while continuing to posture as experts, they expose themselves. And there's one more thing. Remember this. This guy threatened to call in. Now I'm actually interested in his work. And I thought, oh great, he must be coming to Preston to work on something. In fact, I have a mate who uses them. I thought, great, if they're doing a battery, I can make a video. So I said, oh, you know, we can make a video. Then the reason for his visit became, you know, there is absolutely no chance of me making a video with you. What I've got to say will only take 30 minutes. I was looking forward to a real good discussion. So he wanted to meet me. He didn't want to know what I wanted to say or ask. What he got to say will only take 30 minutes. Well, do you know what? You. So basically, he crossed the line. It really matters, because once somebody connected to this crowd starts talking about calling in and seeing you in person, the line moves. It's no longer just online sneering. It's a real psychological escalation marker, and that's a problem. Because once online obsessives start hinting at or threatening real-world contact, the game's changed. Now we come to one of the most revealing cases of all. And this is where I decided, this guy is so obnoxious that I decided to turn the tables on him. I decided to use the tactics I've read out to you, big list of them all, and I decided to use these tactics in an experiment to see how he'd react at coming up against somebody with all the worst characteristics of these other guinea pigs. So we come to one of the most revealing cases of all, Guinea Pig 8. Guinea Pig 8 is the obsessive grievance machine. At first it was the usual routine, accusations, smugness. At first he just started commenting on my YouTube videos. No, you're wrong about this, you're wrong about that, this is what really happened. Boring. Next one, boring. Next one, boring. Next one, boring. So I muted him. He doesn't know that his comments aren't being seen. He's just muted. He just thinks he's writing these questions and insulting me all the time. All he's doing is wasting his time. But then it escalated again because he found me on Twitter and he became a real nuisance on Twitter. So at first it was the usual routine. Accusations, smugness, needling, reframing, the constant implication that I was lying, misleading people, dodging, deflecting, making things up. But with this guinea pig, it didn't stop. It turned into bombardment. Not one or two tweets, not a disagreement, not even a heated exchange. A flood, repeated tweets, repeated accusations, repeated demands, repeated attempts to dominate my timeline. Same loop, show the lie, post where I lied, be specific, apologise. I'll be here until I get my apology. But the thing was that I showed his lies, I pulled him up on his lies. I also put information and videos I'd made to show that he was lying. Just ignored them, just moved on. He put different points on. I disproved them. I showed him he was wrong. Next day he moved on again, something else. And it was every single day, every time I showed him he was wrong. Next day he'd come back. Forget all about yesterday, not apologise, he'd come back with something else. But this is what he's putting on my timeline, even though I've shown him post where I lied. Well, I have done. But he then posts as if I haven't shown him, as if it's me that's lying, that I've showed him where he's lied. Be specific. Apologise. I'll be here until I get my apology. Get used to me being here. Your timeline will be littered with me. I will comment all over your videos, every platform that I can find you. So that's not normal. It's not debate. It's a campaign. It's a hate campaign. And that's where it became obvious what he was doing. He wasn't discussing. He was occupying my replies, occupying my timeline, occupying the comments, trying to wear me down through volume, repetition, and public pressure. Now, what I should have done was blocked him, but he was daring me to block him. And there's other people. As you can see, you go on the timeline. He blocked me because he couldn't stand the truth. Not he blocked me because I'm an idiot and I keep saying stupid things on his timeline and now he can't be bothered to answer me and show me where I'm wrong. So it got to this point. I decided to turn the tables on this guinea pig, and I decided to test him. Not by lying, not by inventing evidence, not by making anything up, but by using his own behaviour, his own tone, his own words, his own attitude back at him. As I said before, if you remember, mirroring somebody's behaviour. What happened? It was absolutely fascinating. The aggressor turned into the victim. Suddenly, the swagger drained away. Suddenly, the big man act softened. Suddenly, the bloke who'd been bombarding me, accusing me, spamming me, and trying to contaminate my timelines, started feeling sorry for himself. And then came the most revealing part of all. He started distorting what had happened. He started twisting what I'd said. He started selectively retelling the exchange. He started portraying himself as the wounded party and me as the nasty one. Me. In other words, the exact sort of thing he'd been doing from the start. That told me everything because it showed the aggression was never strength. It was bluff. It showed the certainty was never honesty. It was a performance. It showed the persistence was never principle. It was ego. And the second the pressure came back at him, he did what these people so often do. He switched from aggressor to victim in seconds. That's why I say Guinea Pig 8 is one of the most revealing of the lot. He's also one of the most pathetic of the lot because he's the clearest example of the snivelling, self-pitying keyboard bully who can dish it out all day long. But the second the mirror's held up to him, he starts whining for sympathy. That's not a truth seeker. That's a spammer with a grievance and a victim complex. Guinea Pig 9. Guinea Pig 9 is the full package. The obsessive one, the public pursuer, the reputation attacker, the boundary pusher, the one This one combines liar framing, ridicule, credibility attacks, motive smears, public pursuit, repetition, avoided again, business contamination, ex-partner references, garage references, workplace targeting, and suggestions about coming to see me or filming me. Even told his followers, because he's something to do with EV chargers, I think. He's very vocal on all sorts of things. Big, mouthy guy. Mouthy. Obnoxious. Nasty. But he's a liar. He told his followers that I drove a Tesla. But the funny thing is, you know, another anti-EVer who drives an EV. I've never made any secret of the fact that I've got an EV. I've got my Citroen. I've never made any secret of if an EV suits your needs, get one. I've never made any secret of it's not EVs that I don't like. It's the lies that people like him tell about them, the propaganda they push across, the people that end up buying a vehicle that doesn't suit the needs because of these lies. It's the lies that I can't stand. It's why I'm here now disproving these lies. So it's not just nasty, it's escalation. And I even put him right about the fact that I didn't drive a Tesla, that I've never had a Tesla. I've had I-Paces, I've had BMW i3s, I've got me Citroen, and I've also had another one. And do you know what? I can't even remember whether it was a Peugeot or a Citroen, but it was one of those. Fine, it was great for me, absolutely fine, for going backwards and forwards to working. But I wouldn't have an EV as my main car. As I said, I went to London last week. I filled up here, went to London, come back, 460 mile, never had to stop. I did stop for a burger, and even when I stopped for a burger, people accuse me of not being at the place that I stopped at. Honestly, they're just unbelievable. Just once someone starts trying to tarnish a business, and again, I'll put this into perspective. I used to do a lot of stuff on Twitter. I didn't used to make videos about EV lies, but I used to put it on Twitter about the sales stats. And you can actually look back on my timeline and you'll see how right I've been. You see, that's the thing. History proves who was right and who was wrong. I can say something now and an EV person can say something now. You will only know which one of us is right in the future when it's actually happened. But you know I'm right now because you can look back to the past and see what I put. And honestly, it's like I had a crystal ball. So in order to take it further, rather than just do it on Twitter, I didn't want my views. My partner John at the garage, lovely bloke, family bloke, he's 63. Him and his wife have just adopted a 3-year-old little girl. He's a fantastic parent. He's the most laid-back person I've ever come across in my life. I admire him. He never loses his temper, even with me, and boy, can I be annoying. He just wants to go to work. He loves work. He doesn't want any of this aggravation. He just wants to do what he wants to do. And I realised that if I continued, especially calling Auto Trader and Cap, there's a possibility that I would create a situation where John would become collateral damage. And I didn't want that. That was one of the reasons I retired. Nobody can get me. Auto Trader, they can't get me. Cap can't get me. The Climate Intelligence Unit can't get me. But more importantly, they can't get John because he's done nothing. So that's why I retired. So when people like this guinea pig start casting doubt on John, then I get really mad. Call me whatever you want. I don't care. Don't call my friends or business acquaintances, because I'll tell you what, if they're a business acquaintance of mine, then they are good people, because I will not work or be associated with bad people. For any of you EV trolls in future, be very careful what you say. Once someone starts trying to tarnish a business, dragging people connected to you, cast doubt around your work and personal associations, and float the idea of coming to see you in person, they're not debating, they're trying to damage. That's reputational warfare. And that's why, of all of them, guinea pig number 9 is the most escalated. And then there's the reinforcement layer. We go back to guinea pig number 8, or was it 7? The orbiters, the echo chamber. These may not always be the loudest voices, but they matter because they help create the pack atmosphere. One says layer, another says cognitive issues, another says desperate, another says troll, another adds a sneer, another adds an emoji, another repeats the framing, and suddenly it's not just one hostile person, it's a social environment, it's a pylon. That's how pylons work. That's how intimidation scales. What this really shows. Now step back and look at the bigger picture. This isn't really about one car, one battery, one tweet or one article. It's about a type of person, a type of EV fanatic who can't cope with scrutiny. Not because scrutiny is wrong, because scrutiny threatens their identity. So when you challenge the claim, they don't experience it as, let's test the evidence. They experience it as, how dare you? And that's why they behave like this. Mockery, reframing, bad faith questions, cognitive jabs, gaslighting, harassment, public pressure, victim reversals, character assassination. Same disease, different bodies. Why this needs stamping out. When I first started, I thought these antics were pathetic. Now I think they need stamping out, because while I can take it, others might not be able to. Other people might retreat, other people might back off, other people might stop asking questions, other people might let bad information stand because the mob is too obnoxious to deal with. And that's how this culture protects itself. Not by being right, but by being vile enough to silence people. That's why this video matters to me and why it should matter to you. So no, these people aren't helping EVs. They're not helping honest debate. They're not helping consumers. They're not helping public understanding. They're poisoning the whole subject. And if this is what a certain type of EV fanatic turns into when challenged, smug, abusive, evasive, manipulative, obsessive, safety blind, consumer blind, and in some cases downright sinister, then they're not ambassadors for the future. They're a warning sign. First I laughed at them, now I document them, now I expose them, and now everyone else can see them for what they really are. The guinea pigs. Different names, same nasty little experiment. Thanks for watching, see you in the next video, bye bye.